Hey guys, Veebat here with another V-Plays, taking a look at the La-5. Now this is a line I kind of neglected on the Russian side of things because it really felt like an in-between line. It was not quite an altitude fighter and it wasn't really a turn fighter. So this is going to be that mid-altitude type of a fighter aircraft, and I usually like to delineate because usually the lower altitude performance your aircraft is, the better turn performance it has, or the better altitude performance you had, the better speed you usually had going along with that. And usually you had some pretty good firepower to accompany it. But these are a little bit different, and I think it's going to take a little bit for me to get used to these, but you get good firepower, you get good altitude performance, and you get good speed characteristics, and as a result you're kind of a jack of all trade, master of none, but not in the same way as a multi-role is, where you usually sacrifice a lot more in the maneuverability. But this still has enough that I feel like if a 109 comes down on me, which we'll see that a few times in this battle, and it comes down to lower altitude, I'm going to be able to turn on him. The gun power does not start out really good with this airframe. Just as a warning, you start out with only 220s and you just don't kick out enough damage. But when you upgrade the airframe to its top airframe, you will unlock the capability to upgrade to a new set of cannons, and these are going to pump out a little bit more damage, but they're also going to be 3 of them. And this is the first battle I had with the fully upgraded airframe and fully upgraded cannons, and it performs very well. Now most of the modules on this aircraft, the engines and the guns, all came off of doing the MiG-15 line. They actually came off of a combination of the I-210 and the I-220, so we were pretty much done with the grind on this airframe with the exception of those airframe upgrades. But like I said, you needed to unlock the airframes in order to get the guns. Little note here, if you're going up against ground attackers, just to remember that the IL-2 actually doesn't have a tail gunner, so it's okay to sit right behind him. Same thing with the BSH. You don't have to contend with getting shot at while you're hanging behind him. Now, that is not true for the Ju-87, but the Ju-87 is also a very slow and very thin-skinned, low hit point aircraft that's usually pretty easy to take out. Now, one thing I want you to note here is the amount of damage that's getting pumped out by these 320mm cannons, because we are going to be able to just mess up a lot of aircraft as they try and come down here. Almost hit our own ally there as they try to come down here and mess with us. We take out Turbine God here, but again, a 109 flying at lower altitude, we do have the capability to turn on him. I'm fortunate that we're not going up against turn fighters here because I would be at a disadvantage. And now we had a player in an F4U1 Corsair, and that Corsair has a pretty decent amount of hit points, but check out this P-38F. The torrent of firepower coming out of this airframe, even though he is getting a little bit far away from me here on the reach, but we are able to trickle away just a little bit of his hit points, and with the help of my ally or my air defense aircraft, we were able to take that aircraft out. Knocked out another P-38F with some help from my friends, and now we are in full defensive mode. Now what I did on this battle is I went for the enemy's military base in order to prevent them from getting a rocket attack site. Unfortunately for us, they ended up getting ours, so I thought my best bet was to hang out here and defend, because it looks like there's no shortage of aircraft coming in here because we're right by their spawn point. So by continually knocking out these aircraft, my allies are going after a zone that's right near our spawn point. So as long as I can keep the attrition of the enemy aircraft coming into this zone going, then they are going to not be redirected over to defending their own military base. And you can see that we're making some pretty good headway on taking their site. Now, we were also not in a great position, but we've got a lot of low health aircraft here and we're knocking them out systematically. We've already gotten grade 2 fighter, which is awesome because before this I was lucky to be able to break 7,000 personal points, and we're already doing a really good job here, and I attribute all of this to these next set of guns that we're able to unlock. I do really appreciate the acceleration and the speed that this airframe has, because even at tier 6, this 300 miles an hour is enough for me to be able to keep pretty good pace with this P-38, and allows me to keep those guns on target. Now, we're not killing him in the zone, but I definitely don't want to give him a chance to come back and dirt me with one of his big cannons and his 50 cal machine guns. We pretty much got their military base at this point, which is a good sign for us, and we've now captured it. So we have 2 military bases, which means that if we can hold this zone and they keep prioritizing coming after this site opposed to recapturing the one we just grabbed, then we should be in a pretty good state. I was going to turn away from this Corsair and go after the ground attacker, but then I realized he was going to vector in on my position. I wanted to allow him to charge at me, and then I did kind of a dodge maneuver there so that way I could come back on him, because again, I know I can outturn him and keep those dangerous 20mm cannons away from my airframe. The other nice thing here is our 20mm cannons, unlike the Corsair, are mounted synchronized with the propeller. They're actually on top of the cowling and they're all right next to each other. So it's a lot easier to get all those shells to make contact together. That damage output really knocking out this aircraft, even though he looked like he was making pretty good headway here. We are contending with bombs coming in from a B-17 overhead, but as long as I can keep these aircraft at bay down here and keep getting back our capture points, we're in a good position. We have gotten grade 1 fighter, which is awesome, and at this point I realized that I think I was starting to get a hang of this aircraft, and now we've got Flying Paladin badge. I think I'm going to climb up here and see how high I can get against this B-17, because there really isn't anything else here right now, and I don't think it's a good idea to vacate this site since we're pretty much done with the capture against the enemy. We've already racked up 17 aerial kills, and it looks like Turbine God actually ended up quitting the battle for some reason, but we also lost a player on our team, so I feel as though that's relatively fair. This B-17 is a little bit too high, which is why those bombs he dropped earlier seem kind of scattered. I know that it's tempting to stay up at higher altitudes to limit your exposure to damage, but it's usually good to get a little bit lower so that we can get a better spread with your airspeed and you're not scattering all over the battlefield. We've racked up quite a few personal points and quite a few achievements here, which is good because that's going to give us some tokens. So let's go ahead and get back to the hangar and talk a little bit about the grind for this airframe and how we got to where we are right now. Alright, so here we are at the end results screen. You can see 19,000 credits, a very good result for us, a whole slew of medals to go along with it, or achievements, which also resulted in 4 tokens, which means we've kind of done what we usually want to do once per day, is get about 4 tokens just through these achievements. And we killed a massive amount of aircraft, caused a lot of critical damage. I mean, these cannons are absolutely fantastic compared to what we started with. Now, what we started with, these are not bad guns. These are solid guns, and I have enjoyed them on the I-220. They were solid. You got 4 of them, but only having 2 is very, very limiting. And then when you bump up to these B-20s, which you get after you've unlocked the airframes, which is the real challenge here, albeit it's very low experience margin. I think it's only like 4,000 to 5,000 experience per airframe, so it doesn't take long to get through. But if you've done the MiG line, then, or the MiG-15 line rather, you've already probably unlocked all of these cannons, and you've most likely unlocked the engine from getting to the I-210 and fully upgrading that platform. So not a bad grind. I already had the engine. I was just waiting for the airframes to get the guns. I've been playing all day, and it's been a rough go. Lost quite a few battles, and even ones that I won, like for instance this battle right here, you can see that I got the Predator medal, which is one I seldom get because I just couldn't finish any targets. I was causing a lot of damage to the enemy, but I just couldn't knock them out. I only managed to kill 7 aerial targets, but we managed to put a lot of damage on a ton of different airframes, and we really helped our team because we got, 13 assists? You gotta be kidding me. It's just more assists than kills. But now that we've got this B-20 setup on here, not only are you getting 15 more damage per second, but the slight rate of fire increase is a nice little boon here, and the added range, you feel it to a certain extent. I felt like I was able to get out there and get these shells to hit the enemy a little bit further out, and despite not having this thing fully equipped out with the sight like I usually like to do, and having a brand new pilot, these cannons, these B-20s, getting a whole extra gun, it's more than 30% bonus right here. We're getting a massive increase in damage compared to what we started with, but you got to get through the airframes first. Now, the aircraft's maneuverability isn't stellar, 9.5 seconds, but it ain't bad. That is not bad. I mean, but going up against the Spitfire, that is not where you want to be. The airspeed is great with the boost. You can get up to 391 miles an hour at tier 6. That's not too shabby. I'm not going to get upset about that. And the altitude performance isn't great, but it doesn't mind being above this 3,900 mark. It does just fine, and you can always dip the nose down in order to get yourself a little bit more airspeed when needed. In a lot of ways, I'd say this is kind of like this weird in-between of an altitude fighter and a turn and burn, which means that there's probably going to be some nuance with this line I'm going to have to relearn. I'm going to have to learn to kind of fly these aircraft like a more nimble multi-role in a lot of cases, but I am looking forward to going down the LA line and seeing what we have and getting used to this this pretty nice aircraft. And from all accounts, I hear that the LA-9 at tier 8 is a lot of fun to fly, and I am looking forward to that, but I'm also looking forward to the LA-160 and LA-15. But anyways, this is pretty much the aircraft. Like I said, I was not expecting to like this, but I heard good things about later down the line, and if they're anything like this last battle, if I have any more experiences like this, it's going to be an absolutely great grind, and I hope you guys enjoy the video, and I will catch you on the next one.